If you're completely honest with yourself, every single player that ever touches a golf club wants to hit it far. Everybody wants to hit it far. We're going to talk about how to get the absolute most distance you can with your irons right now. All right, Q, so I know I see this all the time. We've been told we want to have a nice compact swing. Let me go ahead and hit one. You can read some of the flight scope numbers for me. I'm going to try to make what we've all heard. So you have a compact swing. If you're inconsistent, you hear it all the time, you don't want to swing too far back, you don't want to go past parallel, you don't want too much movement in your swing. So I want to keep it nice and compact. With an iron, I want to be short of parallel at the top. I don't want to take my head off the golf ball. I want it to be nice and centered over top of the golf ball. I want to be nice and compact in the follow through and the downswing. No wasted movement, eliminating all the degrees of freedom that aren't absolutely essential. Well, if I go ahead and do that and I hit a shot, let's try it out. So not bad, nice and straight, solid on the center of the face. I mean, I did everything that I'm supposed to do there, having a compact golf swing. What was the swing speed and the distance on that one, Q?
So 89.3 miles per hour club head speed, and then your distance was 151.5.
So not bad, and for most players they'd be thrilled with that, but there's a lot more left in the tank. And whatever you're currently hitting right now, I bet there's a lot more left in the tank. You can pick up a lot more distance in there. Now, the big misconception there is that compact is good. Look at all the great players. Tiger Woods. Look at some of the guys that are playing great right now. Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Adam Scott. Those are not tight, compact swings. Davis Love III, Jack Nicklaus. All the greats didn't have these short, compact swings because they realized one thing. If your swing is short and compact, you just can't hit it all that far. Having an extra 10 or 15 more yards of distance is much more important. You're probably going to even hit it just as straight or even straighter with a more free-flowing loose swing because you're going to be looser, not as tight when you're doing that. So here, I'm going to try to free up my swing. The thing I'm going to focus on here is as I make my backswing, I'm going to go ahead and try to get my left shoulder under my chin. I'm going to do this because I'm not very flexible, and you're probably not very flexible either. I'm going to do this by rotating my hips a little bit extra and loosening my left heel so I can get that lower body to rotate. The more this lower body rotates, the easier it is for my upper body to rotate. If my lower body, I have this idea of being compact, and my hips don't move very much, this is as far back as I can turn. My hips aren't moving, my shoulders aren't moving. If I rotate my hips now, I can go farther and farther. So when I soften up my lower body and my hips, I can now make a bigger turn with my upper body. It feels looser, it feels freer, and I bet you it's gonna go farther. So let's try this out. I'm gonna try to loosen up my body, make a bigger backswing, get that left shoulder under my chin, and let's see what happens. There we go, again, dead straight. Those are in a direction, those are probably within 2 or 3 feet of each other from left to right. What was the swing speed and the distance on that one?
So club head speed went up to 98.9.
So almost 9 miles an hour.
It's a lot for
faster.
an 8-iron. And then we got 174.9 total distance.
So 24 yards longer with an iron and almost 10 miles an hour faster with an iron. And I have to be honest, I didn't even hit that one all that solid. I could probably pick up another 5 or 6 yards if I hit a few more shots. So your worst swings are going to be farther. It doesn't matter if you hit a 7 or an 8 iron 130 yards or 200 yards. Whatever you do, if you free up the swing, it gets a little bit longer, you're going to have more power. Now the second thing, this big misconception, again, tighter, more compact, don't have as much movement, that's better for your golf swing. A lot of times when you have that feeling and you're trying to eliminate this movement, to simplify things, you all of a sudden your subconscious mind realizes, I gotta be pretty daggone quick if I'm gonna generate any kind of speed making a short swing. So when you make this shorter swing, all of a sudden it gets really quick and tight. So a short compact swing, you know, I'm feeling like I'm so fast there that I don't really know where the ball's going. So even though I swung really hard, I felt like I put out tons of effort there. And what was the club head speed and distance on that one?
So I went down to 88
So the
miles
slowest
per
of
hour.
any of them.
Right, and then distance was 154. So you hit it pretty well, even though the short compact.
Yeah, so I felt so much energy on that one because I'm so fast, because it is tight and compact and short. Now I'm gonna free it up. I'm actually gonna feel looser, softer, more smooth with my golf swing. And the only way to get distance when I do that is I'm gonna make sure, again, I really loosen up the lower body, let the upper body turn, so I can get a bigger swing. The bigger my swing, the more time I have to accelerate. So let's try this one out again, see if I can beat my last record, all while staying pretty smooth. I don't know, it might be a little farther on that one. A little more solid than the first full swing I took. You'll notice I wasn't trying to jerk or get quick with it. It looked pretty smooth. What was the distance on that one?
So club head speed went back up to 98.8, and then total distance was 170.
170, so a few yards shorter, but hey, I'll take it. 170 with an 8 iron, gonna be pretty daggone good. So that's what I've found. Make the swing a little longer. Also, slow it down. Give yourself as much time as you want in the backswing to accumulate that speed. That's completely fine. That gives you more time in the downswing to speed that up. Now, one thing that I've seen, when you want to get a lot of distance, it seems like when you really need to hit it far, you always hit it thin. So Q, I know we've talked about this. What's the number one thing? What do you think is causing all these thin shots when you try to really kill one?
Yeah, a lot of times what I see is what ends up happening is we really try to get that with the hands, and we end up kind of flipping. So if you go kind of no forward shaft link, you can see his wrist angles here. The trail wrist is really trying to push through. This lead wrist is very cupped. So what we really want to do to really compress the ball and get as much distance as we can is take loft off the face. Because what he's doing when he's got no forward shaft lean is he's turning this 8 iron into like a 9 iron or a pitching wedge.
I actually have a little lie angle finder here, and you'll see if this is my club flat with the ground. You can see the amount of loft that's on there right now. And what are the pros doing typically with an 8 iron? What's an 8 iron? Probably 37 or so degrees of loft when it's sitting flat on the ground. I think the pros, what's
about 24 degrees is
really
the dynamic loft, which is basically just the loft that you're presenting to the golf ball at impact. So you see he's really de-lofting that, and that's how they're able to hit the ball a long way, and that's how you're going to be able to get the most distance out of there. So if you go back to that position where you've got no forward shaft lean, you're kind of pushing that club through, so yeah, you got that trail wrist. If we were to take this and just kind of push our hands forward and keep those wrist angles, what would happen is that club face would just go wide open. So if you go like that, yep, the club face would be wide open. And intuitively, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna hit a shot 45 degrees out to the right. So what we have to do to get this club face squared up is turn this handle down. That's what we call it, turning that handle down. So you can see with this lead wrist now it's got a little bit of bow in it. It's got maybe even a little bit flat there. And that trail wrist is more in that bent back position. And this feels kind of weak to some people, but it's actually giving you a lot of power because you're hitting that ball like a sledgehammer. So what we want to do now is do a little bit of drill where we're coming down to first parallel in the downswing. So if you go first parallel of the downswing, turn that handle down. So what we're doing is we're turning that club face down toward the ground, and that's going to allow him to continue to open his hips as he's coming into contact with tons of forward shaft lean, and that's going to allow him to really de-loft the face. So let's try and get one now where we're getting a ton of forward shaft lean on there and see how much compression we can get on the ball.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, when most people try to hit it harder, they flip it with the right wrist. And it does a couple things bad for you. When I flip with that right wrist, this feels powerful, but as we talked about, we're adding loft, and also I'm tending to hit back up into the ball. So as I'm adding loft, it's hitting up into the ball, making it thin like we talked about. And also, when this ball is lying flat on the ground, when you don't have forward shaft lean and you lean the shaft back, I don't know if you can see that, but the leading edge is getting higher off the ground. Right here, the leading edge is a solid 1/2 inch or more off the ground. When I have forward shaft lean, the leading edge is on the ground. So I can hit higher on the face when I have more forward shaft lean. So the key there is, like he talked about, and like we're about to do here, is that when I push my hands forward, a lot of times it's gonna open the face. So now when I shove my hands forward, if I just make my normal swing, that ball's going way to the right. So maybe I swing faster, I have more forward shaft lean, and I see that thing fly over here, what would be in the water, where we're hitting today. And the key is, what Quentin just talked about, is we have to get this rotating of the hands, this closing of the face this way, which is gonna bow that left wrist. It's gonna cock this right wrist back a little bit, and that's when you can really compress it. A lot of players, just like Q mentioned too, feel weak in this position because their wrist is bowed. That's the most powerful position you can be in because the club is releasing in front and it's delivering less loft. It's hammering that golf ball rather than just kind of sliding and slapping across it. So in this one, I'm going to do exactly what Q told me to do here. I'm going to make a couple practice swings where I come down last parallel. I'm going to close that club face down. I'm opening my body as I do this. I'm not just doing this, all arms. I'm making this like a real swing, and I'm feeling like I'm going to take all the loft off there. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get 24 degrees loft. That's pretty daggone low, but I'm going to try to get as low as I can here, and let's see how far this shot goes. There we go, hammered that one. Anything for me around 30, you know, I have a tough time getting it as de-lofted as I like to, but I like to see anything under 30 is pretty daggone good. Again, you're taking 6-7 degrees of loft off that club, that's plenty. What was that one on my dynamic loft and my distance?
So dynamic loft was 28.2.
That's
Your
right
club
where I
head
like to be.
speed actually went down a little bit, but you hit it about the same distance, about 172.8 compared to the other ones where your club head speed was more.
Okay, so even though I swung a couple miles an hour faster, what was my club head speed on that one?
96 on that one.
So 2 miles an hour slower, I actually hit it pretty daggone far as I was before. Let's go ahead and try one more here. I'm gonna concentrate on pairing those two things together, making sure I get my big, full, free-flowing turn, and then I also turn that club head down to really compress it. We're gonna see if I can get the highest swing speed and total distance that we have so far and really crank this 8-iron out there. Let's give it a whirl. All right, I know that was lower loft there. Took off really low, nice, clean, thin divot. What was the distance in club head speed there?
All right, so highest club head speed, 99.3 on that one. Dynamic loft got all the way down to 22.5. So you did hit it thin a little bit, so that's why I think you lost a little bit of distance, got a little spinny on you. So you got 172.9 on the distance.
So still pretty solid. Even on a miss hit, like you said, I hit it a fraction thin on the club head. You probably couldn't see that from the flight of the ball. It just sounds slightly different. So even on a miss hit, we're still getting 170 something yards with an 8-iron. We're getting the fastest swing speed, and we're getting it really nice consistent as far as the pattern, the shot dispersion from left to right there too. So you focus on those things, it's gonna free up your swing, and you're gonna hit it a whole heck of a lot farther. Now the most crucial piece with this is this turning down of the club head that we've talked about here, getting that club head to square up so we can de-loft in the downswing. That's one piece of the move in the Top Speed Golf system. I have a great drill called the tennis racket drill that's gonna make it so much easier to get that move into your swing so you can compress the golf ball. I'll play a preview of that here in a second. Just click the card that pops up on your screen. If you don't see the cards, click the link down below in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. Good player problems. We're gonna talk about shallowing that club shaft out as we're starting down, as we're doing this rotating of the face that we worked on in the last video. As we start this downswing, what you'll see with basically all of the top players is instead of coming kind of over the top and letting the hands come out away from their body, letting the club come out away from their body, again coming down steep into the ball and then having to open up, kind of fillet open the face and add loft to it, the flattening of the shaft should happen as soon as we start down. So as we start this downswing, what we want to have happening here, you can imagine that if I draw a line from the hosel of my club up through my right elbow, that's my swing plane line, my elbow plane. As I go to the top of the swing, I'm going to be slightly above that. And then as I start down, I want my hands to start to shallow out. I want the club to shallow out inside of this elbow plane. And at the same time,